All right, so what's up, y'all? I'm not going to be able to really look at comments and questions, that kind of thing, but I'm just going to give a quick couple minutes just thoughts, and I'm going to try and talk through it. I didn't really plan it out. It's just kind of a thought that I want to share with people and what I've kind of experienced over the last late last week after the the Capitol. Again, they're labeling it riots. There was some violence, there was some harm, and it just saddening that we even have to say that we're at that point. And I know that some people may even take offense that I don't even want to say outright that it was a riot. But again, I think there's perspective that I have from even just a CPR trained physician. The fact, I don't even want to go into that necessarily, what I observed that gives me doubt doesn't mean that what it seems to make and draw me towards the thought process of being that wasn't real, that what wasn't real true urgency, that somebody's life hasn't been taken. But it gives me doubt with what was going on. But that said, my doubt drove another individual, and this is just my ignorance, I'll say, or my fact that I'm an idiot to this, all right? And yeah, I'm calling myself an idiot. The reality is, with the turmoil in regards to racism and things like that, the Black Lives Matter movement, members of our community with different colored skin, are we to call them black? Are we to call them, am I allowed to say that? They call themselves the Black Lives Matter. We should say Black Lives Matter. And I agree, their lives matter. So does everybody else's life. Everybody is a child of God. Even the person that I would say is my enemy, their life matters, and I want them to do right and good with their life, and their life matters to me even. Because it matters to God. It may be a child of God that is doing the wrong things and is going to go in the wrong direction and is doing evil things, and they need to be stopped. But yet their life still matters to me, and it should break all of our hearts that they, for some reason, want to do evil in the world. We want them to turn to good and turn to God. But having an interaction with a member of our community, and a friend of mine, their families are a friend of mine. We met and just had a discussion. I learned from their perspective as being African-American, Black Americans, what their family went through. The fact that her father fought in Vietnam, and while fighting in Vietnam, sacrificing, being injured in Vietnam, being shot in Vietnam, and then coming home and still being really treated like crap, all right? Not being able to do what the Americans, that all Americans should have had the opportunity to do, especially when at that day and age. And they talked to me, and it was things that I had never known. I had a meeting with a pastor who's also African-American, Black American, and just seeing from his perspective as well as man of God, a pastor, and as a Black American, what he has experienced, especially being in a biracial marriage, married to a white American, So, I've learned a lot. But here's the interesting situation. What I witnessed at the Capitol, the videos that I watched videos of, Trump supporters stopping a man from attempting to break glass. All right. I watched Trump supporters in the middle of red ropes, walking, being allowed into, and this is the thing, I watched them being allowed into for gates, for barriers to be moved out of the way by police officers, by security members, to allow for Trump supporters to politely and methodically and peacefully walk into the Capitol. That's what was videoed. There's solid evidence that occurred. Now, my perspective was, what? If this was some sort of violent riot, why were they peacefully walking in? It was like TSA pre-check. It's like TSA getting on an airport plane. It's like you were going through security. They weren't violently attacking and storming the Capitol. They were walking between ropes peacefully, right beside cops and authorities. I watched the video of the woman getting shot, and I watch a man behind a barricaded door shoot the woman who wasn't even through the window yet, wasn't armed, as far as I've never heard that she was armed, and pointing a gun at him. And there was police officers behind her, right behind her. Like, Y'all better have better training if you're a police officer than to shoot somebody with another fellow police officer standing right behind her. When she hit the floor, police in helmets, full gear, riot gear, it looked like, and assault rifles right there when she hit the floor. I'm sorry, that makes me question the legitimacy of that. Or it was a man who, even if he had the right training, he made a horrific mistake. Because if I shoot somebody through my window in my own home and they're not armed, I go to jail for murder, even if I thought my family was at risk. So anyways, these are like, I'm sharing my perspective. My perspective was that they were set up, that they were let in for a reason, and that it wasn't what the media is telling us it was. It wasn't like Trump supporters just violently attacking. Trump supporters stopped a man from breaking the Capitol's windows at one point in time. Now, I have seen a man dressed in all black, you know, if we want to say Antifa or whatever, a man dressed in all black smashing windows during a Black Lives Matter protest, and yet Black Americans stopping a white man dressed in all black from breaking windows and calling him out and stopping it. I watched Black Americans armed protecting a police officer from harm. A police officer during Black Lives Matter protests and riots, they were riots as well. I watched Black Americans protect a white police officer from the rest of the crowd. And I thank God for those amazing Black Americans that would do that for a white American police officer. At a time when civil unrest and division has said black or white police officers especially are all evil somehow. A friend of mine told me about a video during the Trump quote unquote riots, Capitol riots, all right, about female police officers that would have been overpowered by any physically large man, but physically large men protecting these small female police officers. We saw Trump supporters stop the breaking glass. We saw Black Lives Matter protesters stopping the destruction of property at one point in time. There are good amongst us. But I'll tell you, this friend of mine, her perception of what took place at the Capitol was that white privilege allowed the white Trump supporters to walk right through the door of the Capitol, to be let in. So her perspective was it was white privilege that allowed them to walk in. My perspective was there was a setup. And it isn't what we're being led to believe that the media is telling us is some violent attack on the Capitol. Thousands of people just storming the Capitol and destroying things and trying to kill people. You know, that's what they're trying to tell us happened there. Her perspective, it was white privilege. My perspective is it was a setup. Or it wasn't what they're leading us to, wanting us to believe. And what that showed me right then and there was it really is about division. Our nation, what if it's a spirit of evil, if it's the devil, if it's the elite of the elite, if it's the occult, if it's the corrupt government, if it's the pedophiles, whatever it may be, let's just see what it is. What is it? All right? It is a spirit of division. It is division that is taking place. And while she couldn't necessarily in that moment in time understand my perspective, bad connection, I guess. I took the time to say, you know what? Let me see it from her perspective. What did her perspective make her believe that was happening there? Why is she so angry about what took place there? And not angry in the sense that it was, you know, a government corruption or anything like that. No, she was angry about what she felt was a white privilege scenario and situation that enabled them to get different treatment than somebody else. But she hadn't even watched the videos, you know? Can we all agree that if we would sit down with people that they're not against us, there's a lot of people in the Trump supporters, in the the government is overreaching and forcing things on us. There's in that group, the patriots, many are calling them now. And there are many in the Black Lives Matter people who just want to see injustice end. That's all they want to see. They don't want to be violent. They don't want to harm other people. But there are some in those movements, both ends. The numbers we can't say. Which group has more? Whatever. But there are good people in both groups that just want to see injustice end, whether it be racism or whether it be government corruption. And if we understood each other's perspective and walked each other through, this is why I see this is what I see. This is why I believe what I believe is taking place. And if you can see that and understand, at least you may not fully agree with believing that's exactly, yeah, you're exactly right. And it's not about being exactly right or saying, oh, I see, you're exactly right. It's just, I see it from your perspective and I respect you, the person, for where you are right now in this life, in this world. And I want to support you to where you can get out of that level of fear, that anxiety, that turmoil, that heartache, that depression. If I can help you get out of that just by understanding your perspective. And then if the person who has that perspective says, you know what, where is your perspective right now? What are you seeing? Show me what you're seeing and why you believe what you believe. And if I can understand your perspective, maybe we can work together to get a better handle on what's going on and stop the freaking division. Because the division is destroying our nation. That is truly what is destroying our nation. And I don't mean the division is creating the destruction. The division is being used to destroy our nation. Because a nation divided, people divided, cannot stand against evil and corruption strong enough to stop the evil and corruption.